Hello everyone, welcome to my today I am introducing you the Flutter architecture for understanding how Flutter works, how Flutter convert the dot code into the into the native code. If native code for Android or iOS. So there are two type of architecture for the native and for the cross platform like Flutter. And if we are working on for non-native like Android and iOS. So if we working on the native development, then we should learn the Android framework and the Java to building the Android apps. Same as if we want to develop the iOS app, then we should learn the Objective C and Swift to develop the iOS app. But here cross platform is also available where Flutter and React.js is working. We uh, try to understand the architecture of Flutter. So here we assume that it is we are using the Flutter. Flutter Flutter is the cross-platform development tool or framework. We when so it is there is no need to code for the iOS and Android. uh, we can we can code implement the code for uh, single code base in Dart, and this Dart code is converted to the native iOS and for Android. So how it convert to the Dart code into the native code? Let's we understand with the figure. Flutter architecture has three main parts or layers. So Flutter architecture is divided into the, it is a real architecture. It is divided into three main layer, and which first layer is the framework layer, and second is the engine layer, and third is the embedded layer. Uh, Developer interact with this layer. We when we write the code for the Flutter, we design the widgets, then we working on this layer, framework layer. Both layers, all layers are dependent on the each other. Upper layer is dependent on the lower layer. Here framework layer is dependent on the engine layer, and engine layer is also dependent on the embedded layer. And both layer has some components. All layers has some components for converting the Dart code into the native code. And so engine, it is an engine layer which is a Flutter core, and embedder is responsible for or convert for interacting with the native platform. Let's we try to understand the code layers in one by one. Each layer has components that coordinate with each other for a smooth user experience. So here are we have three layers for Flutter architecture. First layer is a framework layer. This framework layer is also subdivided into the three parts. First is the widget layer. This both row is used for a widget, and the second second layer is the rendering layer, and third is the third is the foundation layer, and second is the rendering layer. When we write code for a Flutter, then we are working on this layer, developer working on this layer. And when it try to build the application, then these widgets are converted passed to the rendering layer, and rendering layer is responsible for or rendering or showing the UIs. If the UI is animation, they get handled by the animation components. If UIs are the only paintings, drawing a text or showing text, then the painting layer is used. If you use the elevated buttons and gestures, inkwell, etc., then the gestures components are used by the rendering layer. Or after that, the last foundation layer is providing the abstraction to the engine layer. Now engine layer it is the core of the Flutter, and these all components for the framework, Flutter framework, is written in the dot code, is in the dot language, and the second layer, engine layer, is written in the C++, and it is the core of the Flutter. Or here where many services are used to converting the Flutter applications, or using the services of the Flutter for the native, and this layer, engine layer, is explored to the framework layer. We developer can access the engine layer components, like the data isolate setup. A data isolate setup is used to multi-thread for the multi-threading, and if you want to use the data isolate, then from the framework layer, then we use the .ui package to which explore the engine layer. Now there are third layer is the embedded layer. Embedded layer is the platform specific layer. It is dependent on when we set up for the Flutter, install the setup for the Windows, then the embedder is automatically installed for the Android. If we set up for the iOS, then embedder is automatically installed for the iOS. So it is a platform specific. Then this is layer is responsible for interacting with the native platform. Now we will try to understand by the theory parts. Embedded layer coordinate with their respective operating system. So what is the respective operating system? If we set up for the Windows, then the respective operating system is the Android. So this layer, embedded layer, coordinate with their respective operating system. For example, embedded layer coordinate with the Android operating system. If we install a Flutter on the Windows, to access services like rendering, storage, to access services rendering for the showing the gesture, showing the animation and painting, or using the native storage, storing native store on the native storage, or accessing the native storage, and more services of the respective operating system. Second, it has many embedder for possible target platforms. This layer, embedded layer, has many embedders for possible target platform. If we set up for the Windows, then we automatically we found the embedder for the Android, which is written in the Java and C. If we set up for the iOS, then we found automatically embedder which is written in the C and C++, same as the Windows. Note, Flutter is open source, so we can check the code and change it according to our needs. Engine layer, the second layer is the engine layer of the Flutter architecture. It is the core of a Flutter written in C++, as we already discussed that it is a core of a Flutter which is written in C++. It is responsible for taking care of input, output, and rasterizing composite scenes. So this layer is responsible for taking care of inputs and outputs and rastering and to showing the images, gesture, etc. And it uses SKA library for rendering graphics. Flutter uses a SKA library. So SKA library are used in this layer on this layer. SKA library is also used by the Android too, which it is a popular worldwide library for rendering the graphics. So embedded layer is exposed to the Flutter framework through .ui, as we already discussed that the we can access the engine layer by the from the Flutter framework with the .ui, which should have the underlying code in dot classes. Now there are the third layer is the framework layer. Developer interact with this layer and write applications. As we know that developer working on the framework layer. Modern reactive framework written in dot. So this framework is the modern reactive framework which is written in the dot. framework layer contain predefined libraries and layouts. Predefined libraries, for example, is the Cupertino libraries and material libraries. This layer further divided into three main parts. As we discussed that in this layer is has a theme sub layers, which is the foundation layer, rendering layer, and widget layer. Now we try to understand all these layers. First is the widget layer. It is a composition of abstraction that as we know, or that when we UI for the Flutter, then our class must extend the stateful and stateless class. That is abstract classes. So it is a composition of abstraction. Widget is a UI component. As we know that widgets is a UI component. So everything we want to show on the screen, which then it is widget. We can use a predefined widget or create new widget. We can use predefined widget and create new widget on one for application. There are many predefined widgets provided by Material Android and Cupertino library, which developer uses to make widget tree. Widget layer here material in material library and Cupertino library is uses by the developer, which make the widget tree, and which goes to the rendering layer, this layer, and appear on the screen as pixel. Rendering layer is responsible for the converting the widget tree into the screen as pixel. Rendering layer, it is responsible for converting widget in the Flutter to pixel and showing them on the screen. It takes a tree of rendering object called the widget tree. Whenever any animation input or state of widget changes, this layer is called. This is important to know our that when we change the state of our widget, and then this rendering layer is responsible for showing the changes on the screen. Foundation layer, some foundation classes and some building block services like animation, painting, gesture provided abstraction to Flutter. So this foundation layer is also used for providing the abstraction to the lowest layer. For example, it provide abstraction to the uh, engine layer. And finally we ending on the this chapter. uh, Hope you will understand all the uh, arch- layer of the architecture, Flutter architecture. Thank you.